Hello everyone, in this video I'll be giving you an OP Sorcerer build in Baldur's Gate 3. So I just want to make this guide to help you create a very powerful class. So Sorcerer, I think, is probably the strongest of the magic classes because it has some very useful skills. And it also is able to cast skills twice in a turn, so you can do 2 fireballs if you want to. But I want to break this down. First, I started as a half-elf because it's nice to just have Firebolt as a cantrip to start with. But for cantrips, it really just depends. Friends is a nice one to have, so I like to always have that, especially since you're going to be talking a lot as a sorcerer, and charisma is a skill that you're going to have a high stat in. So we'll go with friends, and then it's really kind of up to you what you prefer. I like to go with Bone Chill to prevent them from healing. That's also a pretty decent skill to have, which can be used in a lot of occasions. Minor Illusion's also oddly a really nice one to have because you can use Minor Illusion outside of combat, get a group of enemies together, and then use your Fireball. That is a really great strategy, so we're going to want that. Shocking Grasp is a pretty decent one as well, but I'm going to go with those. We'll get another cantrip here in a moment, so Ray of Frost is probably the next one we're going to pick. Now, in terms of spells, Magic Missile is great, and it can be very useful in a lot of situations, such as when you encounter enemies with Unstoppable, because they're only going to take 1 damage, and you have to hit them multiple times, which you can do with Magic Missile, so we're going to leave that one there. And then for our second spell, it's kind of up to you for what you think you need in terms of your build. The Chromatic Orb's nice, though, because you can change it into any type of damage, so we're going to go with that. I personally think that the Draconic Bloodline is the best sorcerer ability. Storm Sorcery is pretty good too. Wild Magic has its times, but it's too unpredictable for me. So Draconic Bloodline, because you get an extra health point. Survivability is everything, especially if you're squishy with a low armor class. So I really like the Draconic Bloodline, and it also helps boost up your armor class, but we're going to get into some of the benefits later. You can choose your Dragon Ancestor, and it's going to give you an extra skill here. Now, a lot of people debate which is the best, and it's kind of up to your own choice here. You're going to get extra damage negation for whatever type you pick. Fire is pretty common, so I like to typically just stick with the fire, usually. And for our skill points, ability points, we're going to put out here. So I like to obviously max out our charisma as much as possible. And then Constitution to help with survivability is really nice too. So I honestly just think that this is pretty good. You can take some out of maybe intelligence, put your strength up if you want to hold a little bit more, but higher dexterity is nice to avoid attacks, and you really do want that charisma to be your main skill there. So I typically leave it with these as well, especially if you're the main character, you want to have good persuasion. So that's what we're going to go with for our ability points there. And then as we get through the levels, I'm going to break this down a little bit further. So level 2 Sorcerer, this is going to give us our famous sorcery points here. So this is what makes being a sorcerer so great. So for our next spell, it depends what you need. Mage Armor is pretty decent. Witch Bolt. Level 1 spells aren't like fantastic by any means, so pick what you think works best for your character. Color Spray can be useful at times. Charm Person can also be pretty useful. We'll go with Charm for this first level here. Now, Meta Magic is where sorcerers get really powerful, so extending the distance of your spells is really nice, so Distance Spell can be pretty useful. Twin Spell can also be a nice one. I typically go with Distance Spell and Twin Spell for my first level here. And Replace Spell, this is really just up to you as you level if you want to change something out. So we're going to go with that for our first level up. And then as we get into level 3 as a sorcerer, we're going to continue obviously get more spell slots and our sorcery points, which really make up the bulk of our build here. So for level 3, either Cloud of Daggers or Scorching Ray. If you want to seal off doorways, or if you just want to have multi-target damage, Scorching Ray is probably the better of the two, and you can upcast it as well for lots of damage and lots of blasting. And then for our next one, Quicken Spell is the best meta magic in the game. This will allow us to use a spell as a bonus action, so we can launch 2 fireballs in 1 turn. It uses 3 sorcery points, so it is kind of a little bit extra. Subtle Spell is a nice one too, as you can cast spells while you're silenced, but yeah, we're going to go with Quicken Spell, because that one's really OP. It allows you to summon, or do 2 spells in 1 turn, which can set up some pretty cool synergy. Like, if you're someone that likes to maybe use Ice Storm and then a Fireball to create water, and then have your wizard or someone else in your team use electricity. You can set up some pretty crazy attacks that way with magic, so highly recommend it. For our next cantrip, again, this comes down to really personal preference. It's not going to make a huge difference. Ray of Frost can be nice to cut people off, but yeah, it just comes down to preference. Mage Hand's also another really nice one to have, just to have. And for our spells, we're just going to grab Cloud of Daggers, but there is some pretty decent ones here depending on what you need. So yeah, we'll go with Cloud of Daggers. And for our feat, there's a few really good ones. Spell Sniper is pretty good because it's just going to flat out increase the amount of damage you're doing, because it's going to increase your chance of drawing a critical hit there. And yeah, it depends on what you lack in terms of like coverage, because the sorcerer can be pretty adaptable, but I typically are going to put something like that or alert. Alert's pretty nice because you can't be surprised and you get a bonus 5 to your initiative. So if you like to go first, alert is pretty good. Ability improvement is typically what I like to go with, though, because it's just good to have that extra charisma. But Spell Sniper is pretty nice too. I recommend using that. And yeah, you can also use some of the lightly armored, but we're going to go with this and increase our charisma and constitution here. So we want to make sure that our stats are equal on even numbers, as that's how D&D rules dictate what our damage and things are. So we're going to put both of these up here, except that for our level up. And as we get to level 5, now this is where things start to get a little bit more opened up as a sorcerer, or I guess level 6 is when things get opened up. We get our level 3 spells and our best spell with Fireball. Counterspell is another nice thing to have too, but Fireball is just amazing. Haste is another great spell though, because it can give you hasten, which makes you faster, gains in action, +2 to your armor class. This is pretty OP. I really like haste, but Fireball is just nothing replaces a good old-fashioned Fireball, so we're gonna go with that there. Now for level 6, we're gonna get another level 3 spell, so this can be your choice. Haste is good. Counterspell, Lightning Bolt if you want to do a big line of attack. It's up to you entirely between those three, or really choose whatever you like. Grant Flight's kind of nice, but we're going to stick with just Haste because we're going to get flying else how. So yeah, we'll stick with that there for our next level. Having the level 3 spells is huge, especially when you hit this. It's going to be around Act 1, start of Act 2, so you can start to dish out a lot of damage, and that's when the sorcerer starts to become really good. So next, we got our level 4 spells, so you can actually do some pretty cool things with this. Polymorph's a nice one. Dominate Beast helps you with some certain encounters, but personally, I like Wall of Fire or Ice Storm. These are 2 huge damage spells, so Ice Storm, as I mentioned earlier, can set up water if you use fire on top of it, but Wall of Fire is nice because you can just literally set off choke points. If you're someone that likes the Cloud of Daggers, you'll really like that spell, so it can do some good amounts of damage, and it's nice just to have fire damage, honestly. So next, into level 8, we get another spell. Now this is really, you can choose between a few different things here, but personally I'm just going with Ice Storm because it's nice to set up slippery surfaces and make choke points that way. We're also going to get another feat this time, so I'm just going to take Spell Sniper, but there's some other spells that we can use, and you do get a nice ability to choose Eldritch Blast here or Thorn Whip, so that's pretty nice. I'm going to go with Eldritch Blast. It's just a nice one to have. 2 beams of crackling energy. Thorn Whip can be good too because you can pull enemies closer to you and trigger different things that way. So kind of nice. You can Thorn Whip people off walls and stuff like that. But we're going to go with that. That's pretty solid for level 8 there. And as we progress into level 9, we're going to continue to get more of our spell slots here. So we get level 5 spells. Insect Plague can be a nice one, but Shadowheart, which you're probably using Shadowheart. Most people seem to have her on the team. She can use that Insect Plague, so we don't need to waste a spell slot on that. We can, Seemings are pretty cool because you can disguise your whole party. Hold Monster's nice, Dominate Person. Cone of Cold and Cloud Kill, so there are some pretty solid level 5 spells here. Wall of Stone's interesting. It does have its uses, but it just depends on what your team needs. Telekinesis can be cool because you can throw things around and then the next turn it doesn't even use a spell slot, but I like Cloud Kill because You can repurpose or reposition it every turn. It deals a good amount of poison damage, and it's just nice to have options. Like, I'm someone that likes to use Quicken Magic and then drop a couple of these large area of effect attacks, especially if you're someone that likes to use Illusion and group enemies together, blast with a Fireball, and then start hitting them with a bunch of other attacks like that. We're going to get another cantrip here, which is kind of nice to see. So, personal preference, again, cantrips are really, you can respec and swap them around. Ray of Cold, Acid Splash. Those are two solid ones there. And then we get to choose another level 5 spell. You can also go down and choose something like Counter Spell. It's really up to you. The previous one is kind of the more important one. Cone of Cold can be cool. I like some of these different attacks here. We're going to go with Cone of Cold for this, just to have some more ice damage. And then we get to choose another class passive. So I think that Meta Magic's a nice one, or the Subtle Spell's a nice one to have, especially if you get silenced. You can just use this one sorcery point and still attack. So there's some magicians that will use that against you later on in the game, so it's nice to have. Heightened Magic is a pretty decent one, but it's steep at 3 sorcery points. Extended Spell can be a decent one at times, but I think Subtle Spell is just a nice get out of jail free card if you're silenced, so we'll go with that one there. And then we're going to see on level 11, this is kind of when we're wrapping our build up together. You can stop at level 11 and add 1 level of Wizard if you want to be able to learn any spell in the game and just swap them out in your spell book. Being a level 1 Wizard, it gives you a nice ability to copy down any type of spell, so I like that. But we're going to continue to go with this because the level 6 spells are pretty nice. Sunbeam's cool, but again, you probably have Shadowheart doing that for your team. Chain Lightning is one of my favorites because you can zap someone and it'll just chain along to other people. Now you do get Fly, which is amazing. It's I think one of the most important things later on in the game is movement, so being able to fly around without having to take the Astral Tadpole is fantastic. So we'll go with that. And then for the final level of Sorcerer at level 12, this is when the build wraps up. Again, you can swap this out, put a level of Wizard if you would like. It just depends. Do you want to take another level 6 spell? Like Disintegrate can be pretty crazy, 50 to 100 damage, and it's literally like the death ray from Dragon Ball Z. And then you get another feat. So it's entirely up to you. Do you want a feat, or do you want the ability to add a ton of different spells to your slots there? You do get an extra 3 cantrips and a few extra level 1 spells, which could be nice, but it's entirely up to you. Like, sometimes it's just good to have an extra level of Sorcerer there. So we're gonna, I guess, cancel at the bottom there. Good, back to that. Level 6 spell, Disintegrate's pretty nice. Circle of Death's pretty good as well. Globe of Invulnerability is another good one if you're playing more of a defensive sorcerer, but I like to be just full offense as a sorcerer and just read the room, what you need. And then for our feat, you can go with another ability improvement, bring our charisma up to 20 if you'd like, or you can add in some of these different ones here. Just depends exactly what you need. Even adding in the one that gives you extra health can be pretty useful, especially if you're someone that finds you're dying a lot. But just go in ability improvement, 20 charisma. I think that's the way to go. Level 12 sorcerer, it can be quite beastly. I don't have the full equipment yet, but you're going to get a hat that'll add an extra 2 to your charisma. I recommend going for that hat. But yeah, that is my sorcery build in Baldur's Gate 3. This is a fantastic game. I hope you found this video useful, and if it did, please hit that subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next video.